Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about how I believe the zodiac sign Aquarius can manipulate you. And yes, this does apply and pertain to the sun, moon, and ascendant. Anyway, first thing up, well, Aquarius may simply manipulate by telling you that he or she won't be your friend anymore if you don't do such and such. He or she may say something like, I've showed all this selfless giving to you. I've done all these things, and I have expected no reciprocation on your end whatsoever. I've been a persistent friend and this and that. And I had one Aquarius, Sun and Aquarius friend one time say to me after I declined on something that she wanted me to do. I thought, man, it might have been a little bit outrageous or outlandish, and she had said, well, you're not a good friend. Well, she was being, she just wasn't really being malicious when she said it. She was just laughing a little bit. I guess she thought it was funny in a way. But Aquarius will often play that friend card, so to speak, in an attempt to get you to do what you want for them. Excuse me. Now, I think Aquarius can also manipulate through their ingenuity. I've talked previously about how I believe actors and actresses can consciously, if not subconsciously, be drawn to roles that correspond with their astrological energies. Now, Sun and Aquarius actor Richard Dean Anderson, who played MacGyver on the hit TV series MacGyver, is certainly no exception. Now, whether it was defusing a bomb with a credit card or setting up a trap with jugs and rope, he could manipulate things to his end with ingenuity. Having a Gemini rising, this was done in a very facile and quicksilver fashion, and in a means to ingenuity was used to outmaneuver the opposition. Gemini energy, of course, could be about outsmarting and outmaneuvering whatever the situation is, or the opposition, I should say. Now, a lot of times it was just simply him extricating himself from a problematic situation one way or another. Now, another thing too is that Aquarius can be known to be cold and detached. And the thing about Aquarius is they may become even more detached if you feel you've hurt them in some manner. And they also can be known for their sporadic and erratic energy. Now, if you complain, say, about any inconsistency about them, they may maybe simply might try to live up to your hypothesis and be that intermittent friend, so to speak, and come in and out of your, be even more sporadic in the connection with you than what they had been previously. I had an Aquarius rising friend one time, and he was just, completely very sporadic with his connection with me. And I think, you know what, and the thing about Aquarius is what they'll do. A lot of times they will act like, what they're doing is not really that bad. It's not malicious in many cases, but they feel a lot of times, well, they can, they'll talk to you one moment, and then a month goes by and they don't say anything, and then they'll come back, but they'll come back like as if this was no big deal. Maybe it wasn't to them, but sadly they don't really understand how it may hurt somebody else, whether inadvertently or unwittingly. And Aquarius, sadly, I think and speaking of manipulation, they may manipulate their relationships to their detriment at times by doing so, because as a result, others might actually detach themselves from them permanently. But anyway, another thing about it is I think another way that Aquarius might attempt to manipulate others is by are things in connection with global things that are global and environmental. They may say, well, why don't you do this to help out? This is a global issue. This is something that could really help our environment. You could be making a contribution with others to do so, and say if you were to decline on something that maybe maybe you could have done something, whether it was some donation to something to helping the environment or what have you. They may bring it up, say, well, why won't you have an impact on this? I mean, you could have a significant impact if you make this donation or a contribution or what have you, whether it might actually be going out and physically be doing something, whether it might be cleaning up the environment or what have you. So, and also too, I think Aquarius, the way they can manipulate as well is that they may put someone in a situation where they may shock and surprise them. I mean, it could be giving somebody a little hand buzzer. That could be one shocking thing for them. I mean, Aquarius is connected with electricity and shocks, but just simply their unpredictable behavior can really, what it can do, it can make the most calm, poised person, the most unflappable, composed person jump and become startled with their outrageous and outlandish behavior. Now, a friend of mine has Aquarius rising, is certainly no exception to this. I can remember one time, instead of taking the conventional route into a store parking lot, he went up the grass hill unpredictably, and he entered it in that manner. And it really, I mean, even me with the Taurus rising, I was really surprised by what he did. I mean, Aquarius people can take unpredictability to a whole new level, and he ascended pretty high going up on that grass hill. I mean, he did go to a very high level, I'd say. But anyway, well, another thing that Aquarius may do in terms of any kind of manipulation, it might be through some kind of cybercrime. Now, in a very negative manifestation, it could be by using fake social media accounts. It could be by perhaps tricking others this way, sending fake requests from phony accounts, and maybe in an attempt to get that dirt on others. I don't mean literal actual dirt from the ground, but I'm talking about information on somebody that might be incriminating information on him or her, or something that, I mean, it could be something connected with something criminal, or something that could be used against them later on to his or her detriment. Now, it could also be where Aquarius might also put on a friendly facade at times to get information from their enemies or adversaries. They may follow the motto, about keeping your friends close but your enemies closer, in order to get that information or that dirt on them, so to speak, and be able to use it against them perhaps at a later point in time, and especially maybe when those people may least expect or anticipate it. Now, also too, I mean, going back to the computer and PC thing, it could be where Aquarius might be sending a malicious virus to one's PC in order to corrupt the system and cause problems for you. Now, I understand any zodiac sign can have that, may have that ability, propensity to do that, but Aquarius even more so, I think, because they are that sign, I would say, connected with the internet. Now, another thing about Aquarius too is that they can unwittingly or sometimes intentionally, I think, get people to maybe try things, and I'm not suggesting some of the things at least one of the things I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but they might get others to inspire others to do daring things, audacious things that most people would never attempt. They could be inspirational in this manner. Now, you take Sun and Aquarius, Nick Wallenda, for example. Now, he was, my understanding is he was the first person that was to do like a high wire, a tightrope over the Grand Canyon with no netting. I mean, they will often do these things that few others will. You remember, many of you may remember Daredevil stuntsman Evel Knievel, who had an Aquarius ascendant. We talk about audacious things. Think of all the stunts that he did that many others would not even fathom or attempt to do. And again, I want to talk about something else that goes, and another example I want to talk about is going back to what I talked about before about my theory on how I think many actors and actresses can be consciously, if not subconsciously, be drawn to roles that correspond with their astrological energies. Actor Henry Winkler, that played the Fonz on the hit iconic Happy Days series, is certainly no exception. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. Anyway, well, going back to the Fonz, who was the actor's name, of course, Henry Winkler, who was on the hit iconic TV series Happy Days. Well, he was somebody, I mean, that was obviously, he has an Aquarius Ascendant. And, I mean, you talk about an eccentric, unorthodox personality. And I talk about, I mean, how this video is about, how the zodiac, I mean, how Aquarius may manipulate others. Now, this could be on a positive level. I think when you see a per like him in this example, Henry Winkler being the Fonz on Happy Days, what he did was, I mean, he played a rather unorthodox, unusual, eccentric character on the show, very unconventional. One thing I can remember he did often, it seemed like, was snap his fingers and make the lights go on. I think he would make a jukebox go on either by snapping his fingers or punching it or something. And the thing about it is, you think of an invention that came along, I think it was 1985, remember the clapper came out and people would clap their hands, and if I remember right, it could be used for turning on off a number of things, but it could be used to turn on and off lights. And I think, I'm not saying that Henry Winkler necessarily inspired that, but the point I'm making is, when you see, somebody, I mean, Aquarius can have that propensity to inspire others, I think, whether intentionally or not, to tap into some things that are unusual that could actually be innovative as well. And Henry Winkler on the show Happy Days, he'd snap his fingers and make the lights come on. Well, the clapper is very comparable to that because somebody is just clapping and they can and they would make the lights come on. That came out in 1985. I think the Happy Days series ended like 1983. I thought that was very interesting. Now, the thing about it, and I'm not saying that the clapper was inspired by that necessarily, but it's still interesting if you look at the time frame, and maybe there was some subconscious thing that might have had, been connected with that clapper and what I think Henry Winkler did on that show. It would not surprise me in the least, but that is a theory I have, and I don't know if that it may not be true, but it wouldn't surprise me that there might be a little connection with that. But anyway, the next thing up is and again, and because Aquarius can be connected with computers and electronics, another way they can manipulate is by jamming. You take a very corrupt, nefarious Aquarius in isolated cases, could be jamming police signals, things that are connected with computers and electronics. It could also be, in some cases, it could be like what I would say, like the charlatan syndrome, somebody pretending to be maybe proficient at something like astrology and using it for, or maybe even using astrology for nefarious means, or other Aquarius-like subjects. Using astronomy, saying, making some fake news or video about some meteor hitting the Earth, something like that. That's how Aquarius will, I think, can often manipulate. And the thing is, and since Aquarius is associated with innovation and ingenuity, you could take a very nefarious Aquarius personality, and that he or she may try to pawn, inventions off as their own when they're actually not. Now, another thing is, it's also important to look at the house cusp Scorpio falls on in a solar or natal chart for Aquarius. In the person's chart, is this could I would say that yet it's also important to look at the house cusp that Scorpio falls on in a solar or natal chart, as this could indicate the area or sector in life where one may be most proficient in that art of manipulation, so to speak, and Scorpio will often fall on the 10th house cusp in a solar or natal chart for Aquarius. Now, Aquarius may at times manipulate, maybe even non-maliciously, I call it, by perhaps transforming others' career aspirations. Perhaps they might, because they have this on their 10th house cusp often, maybe they can use this and apply this with other people and use this to inspire others, say, to be more innovative and really enabling others to use their cerebral ability to their max. Because remember, I mean, a Scorpio on the 10th house cusp, that could be the reputation as the transformer, perhaps the manipulator in a positive way, and it could be about transforming others in terms of what they can attain career-wise. Now, and also, the thing about it is, they are, I think, too, another way that can manifest, that Scorpio in 10th house cusp, that could manifest as well. I mean, I've talked about Aquarius in previous videos as having like that universal friend syndrome, right? Maybe in some cases, Aquarius might get buddy-buddy with that superior, that manager, that boss that is over them at their workplace if Aquarius is in a subordinate or subservient role, and they might get buddy-buddy with them, establish a rapport with him or her in order at some later point in time to get out of certain things on the job and allow other people to perhaps do that. So those are some ways that can manifest. Now also, it's important to look at the house cusp that Pisces falls on in a solar or natal chart, as this could indicate that area or sector in life where one can be most apt to be rather duplicitous and deceptive. And of course, that could be tied into manipulation. Now, Pisces often falls on the 2nd house cusp in a solar or natal chart for Aquarius. Now, and the thing about Aquarius in some cases, if it's an Aquarius that, you know, is down and out to some degree, they might say something like, well, I'll be your best friend if you could help me out monetarily. Because Aquarius negatively expressed can be about misrepresentation, I believe. Aquarius may say something like, well, gee, I'm in a less fortunate situation. You know, they might say they're in some situation where they're in an impoverished situation, or they're hungry, or they're homeless, or they're dealing with oppression, whatever it might be. It could be a ploy just to get funds from others. And also, too, I think, sadly, you might have some Aquariuses kind of manipulate themselves to some degree regarding their self-worth and self-esteem. They might delude themselves into maybe maybe being more confident about something than they need to be. I mean, it's okay to be confident, but I think sometimes this can manifest in overconfidence, and what happens is Aquarius might attempt to do certain things and maybe not necessarily succeed in it because they set something maybe a little bit too high. And the thing about it is, Aquarius may also, I mean, what happens with Aquarius sometimes is I think because of their selflessness, and they could be very self-sacrificing regarding possessions and resources. As a result, they may wind up putting themselves in a position where, unfortunately, where they may have to be deceptive over matters of possessions and resources, and trying in an attempt to gain maybe those possessions and resources, to replenish them. And they could say things like, well, I'll do such and such, I'll be there for you, I'll be very loyal and steadfast friend if you can get these things for me. And that could be tied into deception in connection with possessions and resources. Now, some Aquarians might actually follow up and do what I was talking about, but others may simply do this just to get whatever it was they may need from him or her. So anyway, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for how I believe the zodiac sign Aquarius can manipulate you. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be talking about how I believe the zodiac sign Pisces can manipulate you. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.